actor and major contributor to the international aid system, will promote a coordinated multilateral response. In the context of Namibia, the European Union and its member states have committed close to €9 million as part of a response package to assist Namibia in the fight against the pandemic. Furthermore, the EU recently disbursed €4,640,000 as grant funding to the Educational Budget Support Programme. This assistance is not directly related to the pandemic, but in these challenging times, government may utilize it to areas within the education sector that are negatively impacted by the coronavirus pandemic.
That one stands to derive benefits because you are receiving assistance from a number of stakeholders who are members of that multilateral institution, which will make a significant impact with the challenge that we are facing. In this respect, the assistance that we have received from the EU is quite significant, that it will go a long way in addressing health issues related to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Your Excellency, of course, the European Union has announced that the following measures would be extended to Namibia to fight the pandemic. One, that is additional budget support amounting to this 172 million that you have given to us as a grant funding without conditions, linked to disperse this amount for the government of the Republic of Namibia. So would like to understand the breakdown of this amount. Where exactly is it going? What is the hope of the EU in having this money work for the citizens of Namibia?
Well, thank you so much. General budget support is a very particular way of development cooperation, and it can only be used between partners that have a very strong trust amongst each other. So this money, this amount, this additional amount of 172 million Namibian dollars will be put in the government state budget, and it will be used according to government policies. We will of course monitor, and we have indicated to the government that now when there is this emergency and pandemic, we know that there is a huge need in the health sector, whether it's procurement of medical equipment, personal protective equipment, testing kits, ventilators, whatever. But we also know that there is a huge impact on economic and social issues, so it is up to now the government to use this in the best possible way to tackle all those, to respond to the urgent and also a little bit longer term challenges.
Her Excellency just spoke that, of course, this would get into the government's budget. As a planning commission, what are some of these priorities that government could then use this money for?
Thank you very much. Maybe from the onset to indicate that these priorities agreed upon, which informs our cooperation, is indicated in the National Indicative Plan, as informed by the National Development Plan. And by the time of the formulation, we were still implementing NDP4. Now, in terms of the how the support is going to be used, it's mainly going to address the priorities. We have the action plan by government, which is indicating the kind of equipment which we need in relation to COVID-19. An example which was cited was the medical equipment, such as the ventilators, the masks, and also some infrastructure facilities whereby, as Namibia, we are intending to convert some of the health facility into isolation centers.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sibea. Getting back to you, Honorable Minister, of course, as alluded to by the other panelists, is that this disease came at a very unexpected time. It's a situation that no one has prepared for, and that the approach needs to be multifaceted. The issue is cross-cutting, that the impact this COVID-19 has. So a little bit from the ICT perspective, would this money be handy should we address issues of online learning and e-learning that, for example, the Ministry of Education would like to introduce to assist us in this very difficult time? Would this money be helpful in such areas?
Yeah, thank you very much. As you are told that the money goes to budget support, it will go largely to medical supplies and so forth, but you know, money has no colors. So it will relieve the national treasury of some of the burden that it would have put, for example, in medical supply, in order to put that, say, in education equipment, whereby we need, for example, the e-learnings. For information, I'm meeting with the Minister of Education on Monday in order to discuss how best we can roll out the e-learning with other stakeholders like the telecommunication from the telecommunication industry. So now this money is quite a huge amount that it relieves the fiscus of the amount that it would have put in the medical supplies, medical equipment, that can now be used for other COVID-19 related emergencies, like the education program that you just alluded to.
Thank you very much, Honorable. Back to you, Mr. Sibea, to discuss really, as a planning commission, what have been some of the drawbacks, the challenges and setbacks ever since this COVID-19 virus broke out in Namibia?
Thank you very much. The drawbacks can be felt because we have plans which we have set ourselves to implement over the NDP5 period with the associated resources. Now we find ourselves in a situation where these resources which are earmarked to implement the projects which are identified as priorities for the nation diverted to COVID activities. So as a result, we have a number of development projects which are on hold.
Of course. Well, viewers and listeners at home, we are now opening the lines for you to call in for your questions that you might have for the panel. The number still remains 061 400 397. That is 061 400 397. We are also opening up the floor for media personalities here in the area to ask questions, but before that, if they just move over to the mic, I'd like to ask Her Excellency just one last question. That, of course, the Republic of Namibia has worked closely with the EU in addressing different things, development related over the years. Would like to know now how it is being coordinated, the impact of the pandemic on the SDG goals, for example, and what that means post-COVID-19.
Well, as you said, EU is a long-time development partner for Namibia. At the moment, we have two focus areas: education, especially early childhood education, and other one is livestock development. And we work very closely with all the EU member states that are supporting Namibia here. We meet regularly. Of course, I am meeting the other ambassadors from EU member states, but then our head of cooperation organizes separate meetings on development cooperation. Now we are programming for the future years, and we are doing these plans together. We want to come up together with a comprehensive package as EU. We call it Team Europe. So we bring together what we have from the European Commission and the member states and our financial institutions like European Investment Bank, and we want to make them, and civil society organizations, we want to make them as a coherent package. And of course we work very closely with United Nations, like in the education we work closely with UNICEF, and other areas, climate change, we work closely with UNDP, and we want to coordinate all these in a comprehensive and in a way coherent package, both for this pandemic and also for SDGs as a general. It is very important to work together.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. We have a caller on the line. We have Gloria from Windhoek.
Hello.
Yes, you may go ahead, Gloria.
I don't know if this is now an appropriate question to ask, because I've been trying to call since last week, but I'm not going through. I just want to confirm if the grant is still available or was it suspended? What is going on? Because I have been applying since they announced it.
Can't hear.
But I was never given any money. I didn't receive any money. So are they still giving out the money or not?
Yeah, Gloria.
Hello?
Yes, you're asking about the 750?
Yes, correct. And secondly, I would really like to suggest a comment about the e-learning. It's not everybody that has the materials in this news. So is it maybe possible if, I don't know, you can maybe...
Okay, Gloria, just ask your question and get to the point. What is the question?
You know, the thing is that with the e-learning, right?
Okay.
A lot of us don't have the materials. And then if we get the materials, maybe we use phones from other people, and then they send us the stimulus that we have to teach the kids on the smartphones. But then everything is closed. We don't have any place to go and make copies. The copies are expensive. The people that are operating at homes, they are overcharging us, and it is just stressful. Everything is just messed up.
Okay, I'm sorry, Gloria, we couldn't really get a question, but we understand it's surrounding e-learning and materials?
Yes.
Okay, that is noted. Thank you very much.
Okay.
A pleasure.
All right. We have a question from a journalist. Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon. My name is Shamaine Gashihewe from the Namibian newspaper. I would like to find out from the EU, how much debt does Namibia have with the EU? And maybe are we working towards debt relief for Namibia, the EU? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions? Yes, sir.
Sorry. What was the first question?
How much debts that Namibia has for the EU?
Debt. Oh,
And
debt.
whether we are working
Debt.
towards debt relief.
Sorry.
Okay.
Should I answer?
We'll take one more.
Okay.
Very good afternoon. My name is Denver Kisting from Republican newspaper. My question is for Mr. Sibaya from the National Planning Commission. We know that the impact of COVID-19 has been severe on a number of sectors. You told us just now that a number of development projects have been put on hold because of this. Which are those, and how are we going to make sure that we get back on track as far as the development agenda is concerned post-COVID-19? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, any one of you?
Yes, if I understood, you asked how much debt. Okay. European Union is giving grant aid. They are not loans. So they are grant aid, so no debt. So, and we are now implementing the European Development Fund 11 until the end of this year. And this programming cycle, it was like 68 million euros altogether, but there are also support from other budget lines, like for civil society, parliament, cooperation, and that kind of, but it's all grant.
All right.
Yes, let me come in. There was a question on the 750, whether it is still being given, if I understood very well.
I think it partly, yes. That was the
Yes,
question.
well, that was a once-off government package, but we understand that there are people that have not been paid. One, because, for example, some people use the telephone numbers of people that have already been used, or some people were registered taxpayers, but indeed they are not receiving income. They have been requested that they can now make an appeal to the ministry. The spokesperson of the ministry have been providing information to that effect, and the ministry is going to attend to their case. Just today, I was informed that they are going to the office of the regional councils. I had a discussion with the finance minister who has indicated that for now, they must stay put. They will be sent messages as to when then to go and where to go in order to go and register their cases.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Mr. Ned, those are questions.
Then the issue of
yes.
the issue of e-learning also.
Yes, my apologies.
Yes, government is aware of the fact that the country is not at the same level as far as the telecommunication network is concerned. Therefore, the Ministry of Education will come up with a comprehensive plan as to how to implement the learning strategies and mechanisms to reach learners that are unable to be taught through the online modes of communication. Yes, because for information, government is preoccupied with all these sectors. Cabinet is sitting weekly. Actually, as ministers, we sit 4 times
A week.
4 days. Even now, I'm coming from a deliberative cabinet meeting whereby we are discussing various sectors related to COVID-19, education being one of them.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Mr. Ned.
Thank you very much. We are all aware that COVID has come as an emergency, as declared by the head of state. Now, as a result or in response to that, we have decided as government to ensure that we prioritize the available resources to the COVID activities. We did not have funding set aside for COVID activities. Let me start with the development partners. We are having a number of development partners, both bilateral and multilateral. Therefore, we are continually engaging them to ensure that we reprioritize the activities to attend to the COVID ones. And by putting the projects on hold, it does not mean that maybe we are discarding them or we are completely ignoring them. It is within the same sector, but we are just looking at the activities that are COVID-related. That applies also to the government resources. Like if I can give an example of the Ministry of Education. Yes, we've got a budget set aside for infrastructure development, for buying equipment, but with the current situation where we are faced with students or learners not going to school, we are forced now to avail resources that will enable the education to continue. So we are not completely diverting away from the program that we had, but the terminology is we are putting them on hold, and going forward, we'll ensure that these priorities are addressed.
Thank you, Mr. Ned. Yes.
Can I come and comment also, because we talk about education a lot, and European Union is supporting a lot education. And now that we live in a different situation with the pandemic, we must use our resources now in a very efficient and manner, maybe reorient a little bit. And we also just made a payment of our last tranche of the normal education sector support program, 95 million Namibian dollars. I really urge now government and to look into ways how, for instance, to respond to this need of e-learning. by using maybe technology or even, offline technology using for very small children using maybe radio, TV. We are working on this also, for instance, with the UNICEF. And we have also other programs. I think we have to look into all of our programs now. Like we have a big livestock development program in the northern communal areas. And that's very important for food security and so on. And EPA implementation to support, for instance, SMEs. So if we are very clever now and we work closely together, I'm sure we will find solutions also to the longer term impacts of COVID.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. We have another call on the line. We'd just like to remind our viewers and listeners to please ask their questions clearly and briefly, and also to switch off any devices or put them on mute when they speak to us. We have Paul on the line.
Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. You may go ahead, Paul.
Hello?
Yes, good afternoon.
Can I pose my question?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate very much the EU for donating that amount of money to support the Namibian government to deal with the effect of COVID-19. We see several governments appreciating their healthcare workers who are dealing with these patients and clients on a daily basis. They pay them risk allowances. But our government is quiet on that subject. I don't know why. Are we able to use some of these funds to pay our frontline workers who are doing a very great job? Everything has come to stand still, but the health sector and the healthcare workers, they have to be on duty, of course, because of the nature of their work.
Thank you.
What are we saying about this?
Thank you. That is very clear.
Thank you.
Paul. We have Mr. Denk. Yes, sir.
Namibian Broadcasting Corporation. Minister, good afternoon. Good afternoon, Mr. Sabia, Your Excellency. Good afternoon. I just have a question around the development assistance that we have received so far in the time of COVID. And then also, are we considering approaching other international lending agencies to assist in this regard? Ambassador, the EU, Europe, basically has been the hardest hit with this pandemic. Is there any lessons you can share with us around this issue? And I'm curious to find out, I see the bloc is now providing emergency funding to its members, yet also you find time to provide this 8.4 million euro. Maybe we can just talk a bit about that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Just to repeat the question from the caller, that of course as government we're appreciating our healthcare workers. Are we paying them a risk allowance, and can this be part of the donation? I'm not so sure if we can address it here, but maybe...
Thank you very much. Currently, government health workers are not receiving a risk allowance, but it does not mean that government is not appreciating their work, because appreciation comes in different forms. For once we prioritize on their health, I would rather say government should first and foremost prioritize on the health risks of these people to make sure that they are protected. We have enough protective equipment for these people. And it is not only the health workers, we have quite a number of the frontliners involved in this pandemic. If you look at this center, this is one of the high-risk areas. We have NBC employees that are here 24 hours. We have police officers that are manning the roadblocks. And people that are passing through these roadblocks come from all walks of life. And some of them might be infected, and these people are exposed to this. So the priority should be to protect first people, because we are talking of limited resources.
Thank you very much, Honorable. Your Excellency, there's a question around lessons learned in Europe at this point that you can perhaps share with us, and that in a time like this, the Union also has time to give us a donation. What are some of those lessons?
Well, Europe is really hardly hit by this pandemic, and in a way we have absolutely similar problems, whether in Namibia or in Europe, European countries. We have learned that as far as somewhere the virus is spreading, all of us, we are in danger. So we have to work together. Multilateralism, where we started, is very, very important there. And also we've learned that in Europe, we must work more together. It was a little bit maybe panic at the beginning when the infection started spreading. But then we quickly found out that we must work together. For instance, you know, some very sick patients from France were taken to Germany for ICU cure there. This kind of cooperation, being flexible with our normal routines and, you know, keeping the borders open, it's very important to keep the cargo, medical equipment moving. And that requires absolutely cooperation and multilateral work. So this is a very strong message. Of course, the medical sanitation messages are key. Number one, that we wash our hands and keep the social distancing, but this cooperation is absolutely necessary.
Thank you. Mr. Sibea, would you like to add anything?
Yes, thank you very much. In terms of the question on the engaging other development partners to mobilize resources, I would just like to indicate that yes, we know that the resources are limited to address all our needs. And with COVID-19 on board, of course, there's need for us to mobilize more resources from our development partners. The idea is mainly to augment government efforts in addressing the challenge. In addition to that, there is also a call from the development partners to ensure that they support the priorities, because globally we agreed to ensure the realization of the Sustainable Development Goals. And as per the 2019 SDG Index, Namibia was fairly doing well. We scored around 57% in implementing the Sustainable Development Goals at the national level. Now, with the COVID in place, there is a challenge that we will have a negative impact both on our economy as well as sociologically.
Thank you, Mr. Sibea. We have one more caller. We have Tweya from GOtv.
Hello.
Yes, you may go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank the European Union, and I know that they've suffered quite a blow with Brexit and Brexit. But I would like to encourage our government to also reach out to Russia and North Korea for specific reasons that we as Namibians, we cannot take loans. I know it's a grant, but we cannot take loans because for us as a future, it's not good. And China, for example, giving us the donation of equipment, it's like fixing something that's not broken. So I'd like to thank the EU for the grant with no condition, and hope that we don't end up going to the IMF.
Tweya, can you just specifically ask what the question is? We cannot get it clearly. Okay, I think we've lost that caller. We have questions from the media as well. Yes, sir.
Mr. Sibea, with respect, you didn't respond to the question. You said that a number of development projects have been placed on hold due to the COVID-19 impact. Other than the brief reference to some school infrastructure, you've not told us which those projects are. Which are those projects, and how are we going to make sure that we get back on track? And I've also got a question to Dr. Moshelenga. Thank you for providing clarity on those Namibians who may have tax numbers, thus registered with the Ministry of Finance, but who don't receive an income at the moment, that they need to stay put, and their concerns will be addressed. Did I hear you correctly? And secondly, initially when the announcement was made for the package of $750 Namibia, it was for the initial 3-week lockdown period, $250 per week. We do know now that we had an extension of the lockdown period. So in as much as that was a once-off aid from government, are there any considerations to help vulnerable Namibians further? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Just before I give over to Mr. Ned, I'm informed that the caller, Toya from GOtv, wanted to thank the grant being received with no conditions, and that she's encouraging government not to take out loans. So she's thankful for the grant donation that we got. That was just what the caller was saying. Yes, Mr. Sipeyo.
Thank you very much. In terms of the specific projects, it will be difficult for now to say. We have got an ongoing consultations among the sectors within government, but the idea is to look at the priorities within the sector itself. Another example I can give you from the education one which I gave earlier is, for example, in the health sector, where I indicated that, for example, you realize that the construction of new projects, health facilities, will be put on hold, but instead they will prioritize the conversion of some of the existing into isolation centers. Look at it, it's still.
Thank you. To the question from Denver, as I said, that was a once-off. We must understand that these are funds that were earmarked to assist. It's not to say to take over. And it is not only those people that are affected. There are some other programs that government is also coming in. We have to look at now the employers who have difficulties in paying their employees. All these are burdens to government. So we shouldn't expect that because now the period has been extended, it will necessarily mean that there will be another payment. So we need to also address some other issues. The e-learning that we talk about, all these are things that are asking money that we're not budgeted for. Our health system and so forth.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Yes, Your Excellency.
Can I just add, because there was a previous question about the European lessons learned. What the European countries are now pondering a lot is to where to find a balance between the restrictions needed during the pandemic and to avoid complete crash of economy, because that will have very serious consequences also. So what we've learned there that well, at least many countries are going to something what they call now like hybrid approach, that they increase the testing of people and then tracking those who may have been infected, even using some technology in that, and in that way opening carefully then the economy, so that because that will have very serious, if the economy is completely closed for a long time, that will have very serious implications. So that's certainly something where the European countries are at the moment.
Thank you. Yes,
I forgot to add something. What we must know is that over and above what we are doing, government is losing revenue because the economic activities are going down. Just for this month alone that we have been in the lockdown up to the end, the estimated loss to government is 10 billion.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. We have Isaskar from AUS. Isaskar? Hello?
Hello?
Yes, you may go ahead, sir.
Yes, how are you?
Thank you very much. How are you?
I'm okay. I just wanted to find out something about these 750. Some of us who was working for the companies who are now back to South Africa 2 years ago. Now I understand they say we must go back to those companies so that they can give us the letters. What say we are not no more working there, so that we must come to the Ministry of Finance with that letter. Now, if we not get that letter to go to the finance, what will happen about with us? Maybe I just wanted to find out something like that. Because some of us, especially me, I was rejected because of it registered on the finance minister that I was a taxpayer. But it's now almost 2 years ago.
So Isaska, if I get it correctly, it's about you getting back to work post-COVID-19.
Come again?
I think I got what
Okay.
he's trying to say. What he's trying to say is that to have a proof that he is not working, maybe the workplace that he was before, he's no longer there, and so
Okay.
suppose he does not have that proof.
Thank you, Isaska. Yes, Honorable Minister.
You see, we must make sure that we have put in places measures that are not open to loopholes. Now, if you accept each and every one just to come without any proof whether he or she is working or not, anyone can take advantage of the system and come and say, I do not have an income when they have an income. That's why those measures have been put there. They were not put there for fun. They were put there in order to put in place control mechanisms so that we are able to share the little that we have with those that are able to get it, provided that they have correct documents. It is the same like when you are not having documents and you are going to your bank. If you are not able to produce your identity document, the bank teller will not be able to attend to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Honorable Minister. We have one more caller, Adolf from Windhoek. Adolf?
Yes, madam, how are you?
Very good. How are you?
I'm good.
You can go ahead.
Yes, I want to ask the Honorable Minister. We heard there is 1,000 new nurses being recruited. What was the process being used? Were they advertised the vacancies, or how was the process?
If you could just repeat that, Adolf?
Yes, I heard there is new nurses being recruited these days for the emergency. But to me, I never heard of the process, even on the newspaper or on the TV. How was that advertised or introduced to the public?
The recruitment of?
It
New
is clear.
nurses. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that question. Well, that would best be fitted for the Ministry of Health.
Yes, I wanted to say the Ministry of Health know the mechanisms that they've put in place in order to ensure that they have enough manpower. And what we must know is that we are dealing with an emergency situation. In emergencies, things are not working as they work under normal course of events.
So some processes would have to be hastened.
Yes.
Yes.
But the Minister of Health will be able to clarify the mechanisms that they are going to use to make sure that everyone that is eligible for recruitment would come on board.
Thank you. We have one more caller, Michael from Windhoek. Yes, Michael?
Hi, good afternoon. How are you?
Very good. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Before I actually touch on the topic of the day, I just wanted to make a suggestion. You know, we are getting the leaders, different representatives of different industries and communities as well.
We can't hear.
But I really think that because there's some sort of, I'm just having a feeling that there is some sort of really an exclusion of the real people that are real, not real like the others are fake, but real like in the sense that people that are actually suffering on the ground are the ones that needed to be involved. So I wanted to ask the Honorable Deputy Minister, which is yourself, fellow, just to, if it's possible that in your program, that we try to start to include, let's say for example, if there's a topic on the police matter, we get somebody from the community. Doesn't matter who it is, whether it is a community leader or whoever it is, just anybody that can also just come sit there and then also give their opinion, give their side of the story to say, look, this is what it is on the ground. That's just,
right,
I don't want to touch on that, but
Michael,
I just want you guys to start looking at that part of it, bringing those people in. Then
Michael?
going to the European Union.
Michael, just a moment. What exactly is your question?
A question. I'm not. That's what I said at the start. That I'm not making a question now. I'm just giving a suggestion. My suggestion is that we will need to start bringing in people who are on the ground. Let's say, like for example, if there is a police matter, we do get reports from the police that are saying, look, people are still opening bars and things. But it's not really the whole country. It's not the whole of Windhoek, for example. But there are other issues, like, for example, the $750 that the people are not getting. You see, when it comes to the information that is brought there, it's a different thing from what is really happening on the ground. You know, you receive an SMS, for example. I've seen a lot of people receiving SMS that says, look, your ID, your name or the ID number is wrong. You understand? But this person is sure of the ID. So somehow, somewhere, the system is either wrong, and then they need to start. If there is a problem in the system, they need to do that. They need to rectify that, rather than bringing information to say, if you have received an SMS that says this, and you have to go here or you have to do that. That is not really what is on the ground. You understand my point? My point is, bring out those people and say, why is everybody complaining?
Thank you very much, Michael. We get what you're saying. Thank you. Thank you very much, Michael. All right. Do we have, yes, we have questions from the floor.
Doctor, I understand what a difficult position government is and that the priority areas just keep on increasing. You did mention that part of the considerations on the table at the moment relate to employers who are struggling to pay salaries to employees. Am I hearing you say that you are considering as government to assist such employers to perhaps subsidize the wages and salaries that they need to pay to their employees, especially to avoid those employees to be retrenched? In the same vein, we have seen reports of Namibians exploiting the 750 availability. They have access to some form of income, yet they've applied and that money came through. So what action is being taken against them or is being planned against them? And the next question is perhaps to the Ambassador, Your Excellency, maybe also to Dr. Moshelenga. There are a number of foreigners, for example, Zimbabweans, stranded in Namibia at the moment, living in abject poverty, and because the borders are closed, they can't return home wherever they would like to go and need to go. And however much they may have been in Namibia legally, the industries in which they operated are closed on account of the lockdown. They have access to zero income at the moment. They're not Namibians. So are we considering their plights as well? Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have another question from the podium.
Okay, just a quick question for Dr. Moshelenga. I wanted to find out, when the Minister of Finance announced the stimulus, the 8.1 billion stimulus package, he had said it's the first phase of the package. So does it mean we have a second phase to this? And then maybe in terms of grants, I guess the 750, and then for the businesses, I'm not sure whether you basically answered that question, but is there going to be a second phase to the stimulus package, and then are we going to pump more money in terms of this packaging? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Yeah, to start with, currently, the first question from Denver, we have received presentation from the Social Security Commission on measures that they are planning in order to come in the question of the employers that we talk about. But these are ongoing discussions. It is yet to be finalized. And once a final decision has been taken, those affected will be informed. Your second question was, can you just... on the 750. About those that are cheating the system. Mm-hmm. They say you can always run, but you cannot hide. So we call on all Namibians, because we are dealing with serious issues, we are dealing with limited resources that are really intended for those that are in need. We call on all those Namibians that are aware of those Namibians that have applied for this 750, who are indeed receiving income, to report them, and they are going to be dealt with in a manner that all cheaters are dealt with by law. You can report this to the Ministry of Finance, the same number where people are calling for assistance, to say, I know of X, Y, Z, this is the telephone number they use, these are their ID numbers. But we also do not want people to just go and make fake reports in order to settle scores with people they have differences with. You must really have facts that this person has cheated the system. They will be dealt with in terms of law, because it is actually criminal if you receive what you are not supposed to receive. Then the question from Charmaine was...
the stimulus package is there.
Yeah, the stimulus package, the minister indicated that it is a first phase because we do not know how long this process will go. Currently, that first phase has come to an end. Whether there will be a second phase will also depend on the revenue that we are getting. As I told you that when the first phase was introduced, we didn't know what the loss would be. Now we are talking of, we rolled out 8 billion, but we lost 10 billion. Now the ministry will again go back to the table and see if there's a second phase, what will it be, and announcements will be made at an appropriate time, if anything.
Thank you, Honorable. Maybe we can just take our last caller, Julanda from Oshakati. Hello, Julanda.
Hello.
Yes, you may go ahead. Please speak clearly and briefly. Yes, you may go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. I just wanted to ask about the 750 and the people that were rejected with the grounds that they have a tax number registered.
About the tax number, those that already have a tax
Can
number.
the Ministry of Finance, yeah, those that have a tax number, because having a tax number does not necessarily mean that you are employed. Like many people have indicated, they have not worked for the past 2 years, or they have not worked for 5 years. Whether you are paying tax or not, even an employee that earns less than 50,000 a year will still be registered for tax. So
thank you very
my
much.
question is, if the Ministry of Finance that's paying out this money at the end of the day, can they not verify on their system that this employee, the last time that they paid tax was this date? And again, there's another payment that we do to the Social Security. And from what I know, Social Security, we send them the list of employees monthly that we are paying for. So they can also verify with the Social Security that is this employee an active employee on the Social Security system as well.
Thank you very much, Yolanda, for that. I think, Honorable Minister, you did touch on this, that there is an appeal process.
And maybe just to explain further to her why it is not automatic that when you are not on the system that you should be considered an employee, is because we have two types of people that have tax numbers and are not paying tax. We have those that were working and are no longer working, have lost income. But we have also those that are working but are defaulting on paying tax. It is not necessarily automatic that if you have a tax number but you are not on the system, that you are not paying is because you are unemployed. You might be defaulting. That's why people are granted that opportunity that they can appeal. Then through appeal, their things can be verified. They can then prove that indeed why I'm not paying is because I do not have an income. Otherwise, if you leave it general like that, even defaulters are now going to say, I am not receiving an income.
And they probably don't need the grant.
Yes.
As so. All right. As we're concluding our discussion, I would invite Mr. Sibea to give his concluding remarks.
Thank you very much. Maybe just to indicate to the nation that Namibia is very much appreciative of the support which we are getting from our development partners, more especially the support from the EU, which the support that they've just provided now to address our current challenge. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sibea. Your Excellency, any final concluding remarks?
This discussion also convinced me that we are in the same boat. We have similar problems. We in Europe, our governments have been extending stimulus packages to the private sector, to companies, to safeguard jobs. We have been forced to increase our social security systems for those people, for instance, in a hotel restaurant business, like here in tourism, who have lost their job opportunities. So there is a lot we can learn from each other, and I hope that the grant that we have extended to Namibia and all our other cooperation here will be used to the maximum benefit of the Namibian people.
Thank you very much. Honorable Minister?
Just to assure the public that government remain committed to addressing the COVID pandemic. That's why I told you that we have meetings of the economic cluster of ministers, the two cabinets by the president and by the prime ministers. So ministers are working around the clock. When you don't see them, it's because they are locked up in meetings trying to address the plight of COVID. And we require the cooperation from the public in order to abide and comply to the regulations as they have put by the government. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Just a quick announcement here at the end that there will be an official handing over of food donations here at the Commerce Regional Council, and the Office of the Governor of the Commerce Region would like to invite the media houses to come highlight that tomorrow at 11 o'clock right here at the Commerce Regional Council. Thank you very much, viewers and listeners at home, for calling in, engaging with us with your questions and queries. Please do not stop. We advise you to of course, align with the discussion happening so that we're able to respond to issues as they arise when the panelists speak about them. Thank you very much for continuously calling in and sending your emails at covid.nam@mict.gov.na. Also, when you have COVID-19 related queries, do not hesitate to call the number 0800 100 100 of the Ministry of Health and Social Services to get responses around that. Tomorrow morning, as we discuss health-related issues, we'll be joined by officials from the Ministry of Health to talk about the deployment of our health professionals on COVID-19. As we have already highlighted, we are thankful to their patriotism and work as they are helping us be the frontliners in fighting this COVID-19 pandemic, and we are grateful for their service. So please continue to join us and call in as well as participate to ensure that we are all on the same page when we all try to fight COVID-19 in Namibia. Thank you for all your efforts and have a good day.